Hey, Adam.
Good morning. How are you?
All right.
You alive and awake? And
I am. Saturday mornings can be a little hard, but I'm excited for this. So I'm excited that people are here. So I'm ready to go.
It's awesome that we get to have some community members in here with us and participants, and a lot of our core team is here with us. If anybody has questions, drop them in the chat, and we can get to those as a core team.
Yeah.
Today
we're really just today is less about like CFP and things that are happening in the built space and pop-up space. Today is really just to get us excited for design thinking, explore our processes with each other a little bit, and of course to hear from the amazing Surya Vanka as well.
But before we get into all of that, we're going to do a quick icebreaker. So we're going to do what's called a waterfall answer. We're going to ask 2 questions. If you find the chat function at the bottom of your screen, I'm going to ask a question, and I'll count down from 3, 2, 1, and then we're all going to throw our answers in together so nobody feels singled out, and we can kind of see what those connections between all of us are.
And it works best if everybody, sorry, this is jumping in from behind the scenes. It works best if everybody types it in first, rather than wait till 3, 2, 1 to try and type.
Yes. All right. So the very first question for this icebreaker is an easy one. In the last year, have you started a new hobby? I'll give everyone a few seconds to type in their answer, and when I count down from 3, 2, 1, tell us what your hobby is. All right, I'm typing my answer in now in the chat function. All right.
Try to tell us what your hobby is too, if you can. I know.
All right. In 3, 2, 1, what is your new hobby?
Boom.
Wow, look at all these. These are great. All right, we've got skateboarding, knitting. I see photos of flowers, baking. I think I can definitely
raising chickens.
To the baking.
Ooh, I like raising chickens.
These are all great and diverse. I definitely see some things that I tried to get into and realized that weren't for me. Like guitar, baking, lots of baking and cooking. I went through the sourdough phase. I think everyone did.
I didn't try that one. I was too nervous.
Reading the newspaper, I appreciate that. My wife is a journalist. We need journalists.
Ooh, ballet. I started trying to do some online dance classes myself, but I was glad no one else could see.
I can't pop and lock. All right, guys, let's go on to the second question. This one's a bit deeper, so I'm going to give you a little bit more time to think of your answer. What does this year's festival theme emerge mean to you? And this can be as broad as you want, as focused as you want. Take a few seconds, think of your answer, type it in, and when I get to 3, 2, 1, we will all share our answers. All right. A few more seconds to think of those answers. All right. Count of 3. 3, 2, 1, go. Connection. I see a lot of connection. Awaken, resilience.
Ooh, transformation.
Transformation, like beautiful. Springtime. Yes, it's very poignant that we're seeing maybe a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's springtime right now. The pandemic is definitely on everyone's mind.
Ooh, new strategies. That's true. Taking this as an opportunity for new things, right?
Absolutely. Cultivating change. I think we have some like-minded people in our group here, which is wonderful. Okay, guys. I'll give a few more seconds, get any final answers in. I appreciate all of you guys participating. It's really wonderful. And we're going to move on to kind of our main event. Today we have with us Mr. Surya Vanka. He is the former president of Design in Public, our parent organization who puts on the festival. He's an industrial designer, an interaction designer, a teacher. He's the founder of Authentic Design. He spent years as the head of design with Microsoft. He taught at the University of Illinois. He's creating ways of bringing people together and teaching them to awaken their inner designer through something called design swarms. He's taught design swarms all over the world. He's done on every continent except Antarctica. So I'm going to let Rachel and Surya take it away and have fun, guys.
Thank you, Adam. Hi, Surya. Nice to have you.
Hi, Rachel. Hi, Adam. Thank you for that. What a generous introduction.
We all want your resume. That's what we want. We're so happy you could join us today and really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you for doing this. This is awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
And just so everyone knows,
Okay.
we're going to
that's
chat
fine.
with.
What time will you be home?
There we go. And just so everyone knows, we're going to have a little chat with Surya for a little bit today, and then he is going to introduce us to the design swarm framework. So we'll chat a little bit about that beforehand. So let's go ahead and start. Surya, can you tell us a little bit about Authentic Design and what you do at Authentic?
Yeah, sure. So as Adam and you, Rachel, you have mentioned, I run a studio called Authentic Design. And the word, so I started this about 6 years ago. And the word authentic, why I call it Authentic Design is because for me, in design, I think authenticity is the most important word for me. I have had a career in which I have had the privilege, the fun of designing hard products, like working in automobiles and furniture and things that are made of plastic, metal, and so on. And then I worked on a bunch of products that are digital products. But for me, that same thread remains the same, which is authenticity. So I think design for me is really a quest for authenticity. What is that perfect shape, that perfect form of something, if it is made of plastic, metal, data, algorithms, pixels, right? So authenticity is a quest that we're always doing, because after all, in design, we're not artists when we're designers. What we are trying to do is serve others, and we're trying to serve others by finding out what is the true forms, true solutions that serve others. So that's where the word authentic came from. Now, for me, this word authentic is also much deeper. It's not only trying to find what is authentic outside in the things that we create, but through the process of designing, we also start to do a discovery within ourselves about what is authentic to yourself. What are your value systems? What are your beliefs? Who are you? What do you stand for? What are your politics, right? What do you say? So for me, authentic design, really, that's the core of it. And a lot of the work at Authentic Design is with the value-aligned organizations that are all have the same goal, which is to use design to try to craft a better world. Right. And those organizations are sometimes nonprofits, sometimes they're education, sometimes they're startups, sometimes they're big businesses, but all of them are really value aligned in the sense towards the same mission, which is how can we authentically try to create a better world using design?
I really love that. And I know just in conversations with you before that, you really do that by bringing designers and non-designers alike, to bring them into the room and to have these conversations, because we all have values and, people that we want to serve. So how do you unleash the design thinker in every person? How do you go about that yourself?
Yeah. So here's my view of design. So first of all, when we think about designers, we can think about oftentimes as the image of the designer, the person with cool glasses, the person with a black turtleneck, right? These kind of people who like magically come up with these brilliant things out of their astoundingly from their brain like magic, right? And that there is a small number of these kind of special people, these people who you see on magazine covers and on TV shows, and and they're like the designer people. My view of designers is slightly different, right? The reason being is I have a strong belief that every human is intrinsically creative. All lives are equal and all humans are intrinsically creative. Now, it turns out that there's a small group of folks who've gone to places like design schools, and there they learned a process, a method, a systematic a series of steps to be able to take their internal creativity and turn it into results. Now, I happen to be one of those folks who went to a lot of time studying design, and I learned that formula. I learned that process. I learned what you do. And so when I've designed hard products or digital products or learning or organizations, I've used only one process. And that process is called the design thinking process. And that's a process that I know really, really, really well. I've practiced hundreds and hundreds of times, so I'm good at it. So when I think about unleashing the design thinker in everyone, I think the core idea is first respecting that everybody's creative. And that once they have access to this method, this very systematic method that you can apply to anything, and that they learn this method, they get empowered. And so then it's not just those people with the cool glasses and the black turtlenecks. Everybody gets to be a designer, right? And so, so that's my belief. That's how you unleash the design thinker in everyone, by really going back to the core of design. And that core of design is a process. And it's a very systematic, rigorous, fun, creative process that always, always, always produces results.
I really appreciate hearing that. As a designer myself, it's nice to hear that, we shouldn't be gatekeepers to the process, right? Like part of our work and part of our value should be sharing that process, so we can, such as yourself, bring more people to the table, and have them be creative and be able to solve those problems as well without having one of us in the room.
Absolutely. And there's a reason why. There's a why behind this. So it sounds like an awesome democratic ideal, right? And an empowering ideal that everyone should be designers. But there's also the thinking behind why is that important in our time right now? It's important in our time right now because we happen to be standing at that particular moment in history where things are complicated. Things are kind of difficult. There's lots of challenges, right? If we look across the planet, there's planets around climate change, planets around equity, planets around there are problems around climate change, equity. There is issues around food, around shelter, these mass migrations of refugees. So tons of problems all over the place because we happen to live at that particular moment in the history of planet Earth. Right? There are far too many problems that can even be addressed by a few skilled, trained designers. So it really makes sense to unleash the potential and the creative capability of a lot of people. So the way I like to think about it is, there may be thousands, maybe even millions of problems on the planet. but there are 8 billion creative minds just waiting to go
Exactly.
after these problems if they had this method, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's the why behind it.
Thank you for that. That's so, that just gives us even more of a shot of you into your own brain as well. And just really appreciate how you mentioned even this past year, right? There was so much civic action and so many people really tried to come together and support their causes and have their voices heard. So I absolutely agree. Just being able to pick up on that momentum, I think is a really amazing time for that. So I know part of the process you do is design swarms. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So design swarms are simply a way to instrument the mission. So what I've been describing so far is really my mission. So my mission and the mission of Authentic is to unleash the design thinker in every human and every organization to become a value creator, right? Help everybody create value at this particular moment that we are in history, right? Where we all need to be creating value to be help make things better. And so that's my mission as somebody who's highly skilled in design and design thinking, to teach everyone to be a value creator by using this particular way of thinking called design thinking. But, you know, I went to 7 years of school to study design. So, you know, it's all well and good to say, go do design. But I mean, how are people going to do that? How are people going to adopt this method? So design swarms is a way to instrument that. So over years of experimenting, when I was doing this at Microsoft, teaching as a professor at a university, as I've been running workshops around the world, I had an epiphany, which is when human beings come together and they start designing together, right? One of two things can happen. Either they can bring all of their smarts and cancel each other out, because each one's trying to say, my idea is better, my idea is better, this way to do it better. Or else they can come together and behave like swarms, like a shoal of fish with the collective intelligence that's able to gracefully find its way to a solution, like an ant farm, right? But to do that, this design hive mind needs to share a single process and know where they are in the process. So through a lot of experimentation and I found that the way to do this is to really take all of my 25 plus years of design thinking, plus the design thinking of a lot of other designers who are much better than me, and turn that into very, very simple visual process maps. And then have teams use these process maps to step through the same process that I've been talking about, this design thinking process. And when one can have multiple teams simultaneously step into this process, raising each other's game, then you start to get magic happening. And so that is the design swarms process, that people come together in groups, broke up into teams, take on a hard problem, use these very prescriptive process maps and facilitation, and move very, very quickly to solve problems. That's it. You know, it's a bit abstract when I describe it. I'm happy to show some of these process maps so you can, it actually is much more real.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and have you, I really like how you sort of touched on, it's not just digital, right? Like I know you've done design swarms across the board, and that's something we really want to push to our group today is, you know, it's not only, you know, not every solution is digital or tech focused. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and show us
if I may just
framework.
add, that's such an important point. That's such an important point. It's because, you know, because of spent time at Microsoft, and because we happen to be on a digital platform, we can think, oh, it's another digital process. We've got all these digital platforms for design, and so this is another digital platform for design. That's not the core of it. Digital is useful, but it's not the core of it. The core of it is humans coming together. And in fact, I've run hundreds of these where there's been no computer involved, where we've just used paper on walls. There was an earthquake in Mexico City a few years ago. So I went down there the week after the earthquake, and we got citizens from the city coming together, looking at urgent problems, and we started working, but purely on paper and Post-its and working together, right? I've done this with the refugee communities. I've run this with folks who are homeless. I've run this with opioid addicts and a whole bunch of places. So the digital is not key to this. Now, it so turns out that in the past year and a half, the only way we've been able to connect is digitally. And so now the process has turned digital to allow people to come together and work just the way we are connecting now on Zoom, but to run the same process. So there is nothing fundamentally digital about design swarms, but it lends itself to being a digital manifestation or a physical manifestation. Right.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. All right, why don't you go ahead? I know there's some screen shares you wanted to show us today, and maybe you can talk through those.
Sure, sounds good. So
Awesome.
Why don't I share, let me share something that's hot off the press. This is from it's fun to see things that are not even complete. And I know there are a number of young people in the audience here. And so I'll share something that I'm doing with folks who've just left school and they are actually joining Boston College. And it's actually a short design swarm that's only 90 minutes long. These can go on for a day or 2 days, and this is just 90 minutes long. So let me share what this looks like. So at the start of a swarm, what happens is there are, in this case, typically there are about 24 to 36 people in a swarm, but in this case, there were 150 students. All coming together for these 90 minutes. So very, very big. And very big in 27 different teams. And the first thing that happens is it starts with a challenge. So I'm going to share what the challenge is. Do you see a screen that is like a text screen?
Yes, it says background, the COVID-19 pandemic.
Great. Sounds good. Perfect. That's what that is. Okay, let's go to, all right. So this was a challenge around mental health. So these are students, none of them are design students, and they begin by getting this challenge. So this will take about a minute to read through, but you'll need this background. So the background, the COVID-19 pandemic has meant living through multiple crises, including financial and disease-related ones. These crises have taken a toll on everyone's mental and physical health, but a poll shows that the mental health effect of the pandemic have had a greater impact on teenagers. So a bunch of COVID restrictions, virtual learning, time away from friends, all of that has had an impact. So a national poll shows 46% of parents say that teens had shown signs of new or worsening mental health conditions since the pandemic. So when kids are depressed, we try to engage them so they don't isolate. We call it behavioral activation, right? And
I like that.
So this is the background. And there are some things that are known to work well. Greater interaction with family, regular sleep schedule, so on, a bunch of these things. So the team challenge that these students get is come up with a creative and realistic way for behavioral activation that promotes mental health among students during the pandemic and beyond. So tough challenge, and they've got only 90 minutes to do this in. Okay?
Big challenge.
Right? So they need to come up with really creative ways to take on this very, very hard challenge in this very short time. And they're not designers, right? They haven't done design in their lives before. So this is where the power of process maps and a well-orchestrated process starts to kick in. So I'll show you something that and the teams are midway in. So what do we look at here? This is a design swarms canvas. Here there's 6 teams, Okay, when you look at it, so this, what do we see here? There's 6 teams working in parallel. Team 1, team 2, team 3, team 4, team 5, team 6. They're all working on the same challenge. They all go through the same steps. But what they actually do is different. So now let's go and take a look at what one of the teams is doing. What we're looking at here is they're using a digital whiteboard called Mural, and all of the teams are remote. And they're not even, they're physically distributed and distributed in time zone as well. So the first step of the design thinking process is to gain empathy. You don't try to solve problems before you gain empathy. So the first step, which I already do for them here, is I give them a view of who they're going to be designing for. So design thinking is different from other form of thinking, where we don't design for market segments. We design for a specific human being and get really intimate view into their life. So here they're designing for Carolina, and this story talks about how she's had to isolate and be very careful. She lives in a home with her dad, her brother, and her grandma, and all the challenges she has and what's going on mentally for her, where she is starting to feel tired and she's getting anxious and depressed, and she's losing connection with her health. She's feeling alone, eating a lot of comfort food, unhealthy comfort food. So once the team, so there's about 6 students working on this, those 6 students, then they come up with a design goal, the next stage in the design process. So here they see a formula for writing a design goal. So they just need to use this formula. And here are some samples. So they've written up this design goal. Provide Caro with a way she can reconnect with her family. Right? So that, now notice if we went down, this team said, provide Caro with a way she can help get the right help for mental well-being. This team said, provide Caro with a way she can reconnect with her friends. So all teams will make choices with different design goals based on their understanding of persona. Then they go through some exercises where they create ideas. They create a ton of ideas. The idea here in the design thinking process, you create many, many, many ideas. And then they go through a process of idea selection. And then they go through a process of selecting ideas by rating them on these 2-axis diagrams, and they learn about that. And finally, within 90 minutes, each team comes up with an idea pitch. Again, you can see here's a formula for an idea pitch. They use that formula to come up with this. So team 1 came up with an idea, which is Neighborhood Network is an app which pairs you with people in your zip code. You can share recipes and places to visit and puzzles for exchanging and other activities to connect families during the pandemic. Where did that idea come from? It was a response to this design goal. Provide Caro with a way she can reconnect to the family. Let's take a look at a couple of other solutions. Provide Caro with a way she can get the right help for her mental health and well-being. And this team came up with something that says Pandemic Pals, an initiative through the University Counseling Services that brings together small groups of students struggling during this time to do activities via Zoom and have group sessions. So, right? So that's the process. The process is this team is looking at that team's work, that team's looking at this team's work. And when one team gets blocked, they help each other become better. So that idea, not only am I as a facilitator and a coach leading them, they're leading each other. And this is swarm behavior. This is what happens with the shoals of fish. This is what happens in an ant farm. And what they're doing in the physical world, we're doing in the creative, cognitive world in this case. Now, I'll show you a couple of other examples of what, sometimes in, did the screen switch to one that's got pictures on it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Horses?
Yes, that's right. That's right. Now, another step in the process is they might move their ideas to becoming storyboards, right? And pretty much
Great.
these are like collages. And these are also students who have never done design, know nothing about design. So that's kind of the process. And when it's much more complicated, there are more complicated, complex process maps like this, which are far more detailed, for like a day-long event or a couple day, sometimes even across a month. And when multiple teams come together, then they're going really, really deep to go into details of people's lives and come up with solutions. So that is the design swarms approach. So core idea is that when we have a shared view of process and a single view, and that is a rigorous, prescriptive, well-tested view, then teams can move together and help each other get better. And multiple teams can actually go faster and deeper. These are the two things that are needed. And so anyway, this method is something that has become during our times when we've got a bunch of things happening where we've got a host of challenges. We're also moving to what we can say the future of work. And the future of work is going to be designerly, where even organizations are saying, you know, the way we work together in the future will be the way designers have worked. And so that's kind of where design swarms is becoming quite popular. So it's used today at places like Microsoft, Amazon, T-Mobile, Amgen, Lilly. Is used in like the Clinton Global Initiative.
Nice.
It's used at humanitarian labs, used in a bunch of design schools around the world. So that's where the methods become quite popular.
And I really appreciate how you talked about the swarm. That gave me such a great visual of what it's like in real time to probably actually go through that process and have all these people in the room and really kind of rapid fire ideas. Awesome.
Yeah, and we're hoping to do one of these during the festival.
Yeah. Oh, we would love that. Please do. I'm sure everyone on this call today wants to hear more, which is like this whole hour was with you. So
well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, great. And thank you again for coming. And we are actually going to kind of do our own little design thinking process today as well. So,
yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Wonderful.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to give everyone just a couple minutes here just to take a quick break, grab some water if you need to, get up and stretch. Adam, I know we were going to do some yoga.
I got to run away and I put a plastic bin in front of my heater, so I got to stretch as I sprinted across the room to the plastic bin.
Awesome.
That was a really interesting interview. Surya is so creative, and I can't imagine he has any downtime because he seems like he's just on all the time.
All the time.
And, you know, for those of us who don't have unlimited stores of energy, we can still be design thinkers, right? We can still design.
And that's what we're really hoping for today is, you know, we're hoping not everyone on this call is a designer, in the spirit of, you know, what Surya was talking to us about is really being able to share this process. So us as designers want to share that process with you today, and really just walk you through so that you have some kind of fun stuff to take with you at the end of today. So really all you need, I just encourage you, I'll give everyone maybe a minute or two to go grab pen, paper, colored pencils, whatever you got. But just for sure, a pen and a piece of paper, or maybe a couple pieces. Cool.
I've got my trusty dusty notebook.
Yep, me too.
I've got my super cool marker book. But I'm probably just going to use this pen right here, and that'll be plenty. We have a question here from Mindy.
Oh, yeah.
And the chat's a great place to have this conversation. How important is the facilitator in the swarm and design thinking?
Oh, yeah. How important is the facilitator? So I think, Mindy, just going off of kind of what Surya was saying, I think just having someone who has that kind of deeper knowledge just to be able to really kind of shepherd the process. So not necessarily to know anything that you don't know or to, you know, be secretive in any way, shape or form, but just to have that deep knowledge to know how to teach or how to facilitate or educate the process. I do think that that's important, but not to say that if you've gone through these a lot, or you start to kind of, get your own knowledge about, or your own research about design thinking, that you could become a facilitator.
Yeah, and your example of government and running the country, I think, yes, we need some experts, but definitely, the input of us as citizens is always going to be vastly important in those decisions.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But maybe something that could be incorporated better into our government is some design thinking and some citizenship input, right?
Yes.
All
Yeah,
right, well,
that definitely, that speaks to that like civic action coming out of 2020, so just really hoping we can keep that momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go through the design process, Rachel.
All right, so first we just want to give you kind of a little snapshot of the process. Next slide, please, and what we're doing today. So we're really going to focus in on, sort of similar to the swarms, is really just getting to this place of ideation and really getting to those ideas, and being able to sketch those ideas and try to bring those ideas to life. So really we're going to do, defining our challenge today. We're going to try to empathize with our users or the people who use our services and products, and then ideate possibilities. So I hope you all have your creative hats on and are ready to go.
Yeah.
And we're just focusing on those today, but we do encourage people to go ahead and, if you want to take your designs further and prototype, please do that.
Yeah, if you have fun today, go create your idea and share it with us on socials. All right. So we're going to give you guys a couple of users to choose from and a couple of challenges to choose from. We don't want this to be too broad. So first step is choosing a user.
So here we want to just choose, so kind of similarly like Surya showed us, we have just some kind of pre-baked personas here. So just take a look and just look around, see what all these people are up to, and just know that, good design meets the needs of people. But we have to keep in mind, not all people are the same, right? We all have different lived experiences. We all sort of live and view our worlds differently. So how do we sort of design for multiple people, multiple needs? So kind of look through just picking one of these that you'd like to focus on today or to center your designs on. What we will be doing later, so you want to keep in mind who your user is, because later we will actually go into breakout rooms based on your user. So just kind of make sure you write down who you choose here. So, and I can walk us through, we've got Betty, who is 75. She was retired, lives in Redmond, has a husband and 2 cats. So as I'm reading these, kind of think, what would this person need? What might their challenges be? What are their sort of frustrations or their likes? We have Yusra, who's 36, she's a lawyer, lives in Seattle, has a husband and 2 kids. We have Remy, who's 25, cafe owner, lives in Kirkland, lives with his partner and 2 dogs. And then Kamal, age 11, he is a student, goes to school in Bellevue and lives with mom, dad, and 2 brothers. So I'll give you just a minute to pick who you want. Cool. Is that enough time? Everyone think they know who they want?
I'm going with Kamal.
Awesome. All right. So like I said, make a note, take a screenshot, whatever you'd like to do, and just keeping that on your paper here. Great. Okay, and next, please. Awesome. So we are also going to, and next slide as well, thank you. So we're also going to pick a challenge. So really what we would do technically, we'd really, if we were doing this in that long, if we had the hour and a half or even a whole day to do this, we would really be able to go talk to our users and go talk to people in our communities and try to find these insights of really what are their challenges, what do they need help with, where can we start to sort of help them or start to bring them into the design process. So really thinking about our empathy, really thinking about how we want to solve these challenges and problems with our users. So like I said, right now today, we can't be with our users, but normally, we really like to emphasize designing with and not necessarily for. So these are some challenges that we have, again, kind of pre-baked for you today, so you don't have to do too much overthinking. So choose what you want to help your user with. These challenges provide opportunity areas for design. We like to frame our design challenges or goals using how might we statements. And really, we use how might we just to show that solutions are possible and that we can change those statements or change those solutions over time, right? So it's more of a more positive way, not so stringent, to kind of frame our challenges and frame our designs. So I want you to think, how might we help, and I'll go with Yusra, how might we help Yusra support a cause? So I want you to kind of think of that as well and go ahead and choose your design challenge that you'd like to design for.
And we can refer back to these slides in the breakout room, so no worries if you didn't get a chance to write it down yet. All right, let's move on to the next ones.
Okay, so now we want to frame our challenge. And so really this framing just kind of gives us sort of like a North Star to kind of go back to and refer to. So we really want to be able to frame the challenge and frame our users so we know what the scenario, what the story is that we're trying to tell by coming up with these solutions. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so go ahead and feel free. You can draw this little worksheet here. You can sketch it out, or you can just fill in the answers on your own piece of paper. But again, we want to think, okay, well, who is our target user? So go back to your persona that you picked earlier. What is their age? What do we want to help them do? So this is sort of like a reiteration of your how might we statement. So again, how might we help Yusra support a cause? Okay. And why is this important? So this is important because why? So why would it be important for Yusra to be able to support a cause? We want her to be more civically engaged. She wants to find ways that she can support her community more. So just really thinking like, why is that important? And really, this is where you get to play a little bit about who your person is. So again, in real life, we would like to be able to go and actually find these users and actually have conversations with them. But here you get to be a little more creative and kind of developing your own persona. So I'll give you a few minutes to fill this in. Any questions, Adam? Is it good?
No, I think this is going great. Again, we're gonna spend some time in breakout rooms once you've chosen your user. So we're just kind of going through the process right now. Don't feel like you have to rush. And then we'll, those of us who've chosen Kamal, we'll go into a breakout room and we'll kind of talk about the challenge we want to solve, and we'll do some exercises and try to come up with some ideas.
calming. All right, hopefully everyone got a chance to get out their initial thoughts here, and don't worry, we're going to be taking this a lot deeper. So if you feel like you want to add more, feel free to do it, or you'll have an opportunity to do so later. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, mind mapping is an exercise that really sort of, it reminds me of kind of what Surya said, just that sort of rapid fire, getting these ideas out, just getting ideas out from brain to paper. So that's what we're going to be trying to do with this mind map. Next slide, please. Okay, now I know this looks a little overwhelming, but don't worry. It'll make more sense as we start to talk through this. So mind maps allow you to organize ideas in a more kind of semi-structured visual diagram. So the first thing I want you to do is just go back to your design challenge. So mine was supporting a cause. And you're going to put that right in the middle of your mind map. So go ahead and get out your paper and pen again. We can do this on another piece of paper if you'd like. And again, doesn't have to be fancy, not about, we are not judging drawing skills today. We always feel like sketching is just a really, and writing your thoughts out is just a really powerful way to, like I said, get brain to paper. So first thing you're gonna do, right in the center, just like you see here. So our example has a great dinner party for friends. The next step you're gonna do is create main topics or connections from your center. So here, What does a great dinner party with friends entail? So we have how to make everyone comfortable is one idea. Maybe wanting to teach something at your dinner party is another idea. Maybe having people eat outside. Maybe having everyone in the kitchen. Or maybe you just don't plan it. That's also an option, right? So go ahead and take a minute, come up with just your center and your main branches. So you don't have to go too far out yet. Let's just stick there. I can even show you all mine as I'm going here. So just your main branches. Thanks, Adam. Awesome. All right, and you're going to continue this. So I have my center and my main branches. So now you're going to elaborate on those connections. So this is where you're just letting your brain, it's sort of like stream of consciousness writing, right? Like sort of just letting your brain, whatever pops to mind, write it down. You know, don't think you have to overly filter what you put down on your paper. This is yours. It's your thinking, your thought process. So you own it and you own how you want to use it. So just start to think about elaborating on those main connections. So for mine, I had supporting a cause, volunteering, and then I put, is it digital volunteering or is it in person? So that's when you can kind of start to break and make those sub branches. Okay. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. But again, this is really just for you to get all these ideas out on paper. You're really looking for those connections and really just starting to think of what does this entail? What are the parts of supporting a cause or finding a new hobby? So really start to drill in as deep as you can go. You probably won't finish. We'll give you a few minutes and that's okay. We'll pick one of those ideas later. All right, keep doing it. Let's do a couple more minutes. Perfect, thank you. Okay. Try to wrap up some ideas. And again, don't feel pressured or panicked. Just getting out what you can right now. Okay. All right. So go ahead. I'm going to show you just kind of one branch that I came up with. So I've got supporting a cause, volunteering, digital or in person, volunteering platform. So I was like, how does USRA actually sign up to be a volunteer? All right. So this is my sort of beginnings of my mind map. What about you, Adam?
Ooh, okay. So I chose Kamal, who's
Okay.
only 11, and he wants to explore some new places. So some of mine are digital or physical places. I've got his city of Bellevue versus, the natural areas that surround him. Started thinking about how a young person can find those spots to get out into nature, whether it's a club or maybe it's his school or maybe it's his parents, maybe it's digital. So I'm just kind of expanding that way, and I don't know what we're going to come up with next.
Awesome, thank you. All right. And again, we'll have an opportunity for everyone to share.
Yes.
Okay. All right. What do we have up next?
Throw those slides up.
So here, so just for the sake of timing, I'm going to go into sort of what our next step would be, or how we would normally kind of teach this. So going from a mind map, having an idea, and then going into storyboarding. So I personally, storyboarding is one of my favorite things to do, because it actually tries to sort of put you in the shoes of your user. Now, you won't have the exact lived experience. You won't know how exactly, what it's like to be in their shoes, but you can start to, based off your persona and your challenge and the mind map you just did, you'll start to be able to have this story that you're sharing, and that you want to be able to build out. So think of your mind map. We won't maybe necessarily do this part all together today, because we want to get into our breakout rooms and do a little bit of sketching. But I just want you to think of one scenario from your mind map. So I'm going to pick my scenario of volunteering, doing it digitally, and then how does USRA, my user, actually sign up? So if I were doing a storyboard, this is sort of my process. I create an establishing shot. So where and when did this story occur? You kind of want to put people into, put your stakeholders, people you're sharing this with, in that moment. Then you want to kind of introduce your user and their conflict. So what are they struggling with, or what are we trying to help them achieve? What's their goal? Now, something I do is I kind of create my ending first. So I'll stick with these two, number 1, number 2, as like my little post-it notes, or I can show you an example of a storyboard as well. But then I like to go to the ending and then fill in all the parts afterwards. Okay, so that's just how I personally like to do it. I don't know, anyone else on the call have ways that they like to storyboard? Anything different?
I find myself thinking of my end product already, and I've got 10 ideas in my head, and I'm thinking about how Kamal can use these to get out and explore new places. Exactly. And then I'm going to storyboard one of those.
Yes. So for this next part here, so I can, we'll go ahead and just let you read over the slide a little bit, and then we'll move it on. Sorry, Trevor. Thank you. Okay, so here's an opportunity to sketch. Now, if you want to do a storyboard instead of a sketch, I think that's okay. Whatever you feel comfortable with. This is not about your drawing ability. I am a horrible drawer. This is, again, just getting your ideas out. So really think, what is the design that you want to develop to help your user get through that scenario, right? To get through that story. What is and now I'm going to pause here for a sec, because Adam, we talked about designs don't just have to be apps or websites, right?
That's absolutely right.
What else could they be?
Well, you know what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about this young kid who wants to get out and explore some more. I'm designing a backpack that has some built-in features that help his parents make sure he's being safe, that help him, pay for public transportation. Maybe I'm designing a notebook that has ideas for him to do scavenger hunts in his neighborhood. And then maybe I'm designing an app that helps him connect with other youth who wants to get out and explore. So it could be a lot of things.
So yeah, definitely don't ever, limit yourself to just thinking about, oh, I have to design a technology, right? Like tech is not always the solution, but it could be part of the solution. So like Adam said, having a backpack, but maybe he still needs the app to kind of figure things out, right? So pick a design, if it's a service, a tangible product, an app or a website. We don't want to discourage you from doing that, but go ahead and start. And then we will go into breakout rooms shortly. So if you're able to stick with us for a few more minutes, please do. Right, and a couple pointers. One thing I find really helpful with designing is like annotating your sketches too. Like, what is this thing doing? What does this look like? So if you can add some annotations to your sketches. Okay, so I want you to think back who your user is. So hopefully you are very well aware of who the person you chose is. So we are going to go ahead and go into breakout rooms. All right. So why don't we go ahead and start with Betty? Who was our Betty team? And does anyone want to volunteer to share what you heard in your conversations?
It was Mindy and Tim.
Okay.
And
Oh, why don't you do it?
Oh, sure. Okay. Are you sure? I don't mind if
Oh, go ahead.
anyone else wants to go. Okay, great. We actually all picked Betty, and then we all picked, I guess, like the problem space of her feeling lonely. And we all kind of had a similar idea about how, you know, as people age, especially during COVID, that it's getting more and more lonely for folks to kind of live in their own space, live in a care facility. Perhaps technology isn't their strong suit. So how can they feel connected to the people around them and their families and things like that? So we each we were talking about, you know, walking out in nature and perhaps even helping others. So a group coming together as, you know, 60 plus individuals or older, and then coming together to help other individuals that perhaps can't do those types of things. So that's kind of what we were chatting about. It was a great conversation, I think. Got to meet some great folks and it was awesome.
Great. Mindy, Tim, anything else you want to add?
Just that everybody ages differently, and that it seems like this is going to be an issue not only for individuals, but there's going to be 58 million 85-year-olds and older by the year 2030 in the United States. So it's an impressively large group of people who really need design solutions. So.
And so really thinking about that, because that's something we're going to encounter in the years to come. Great. How about let's switch to Yusra. And Shauna, would you actually mind sharing what you came up with? I really loved your story. If you're still on.
I'm still here.
Oh, cool.
I am happy to share because it was the only one that was not the example that you were using. So I was working with Yusra to help her find a hobby, and thinking about her busy lifestyle, career, kids, home, family, that sort of thing, needing sort of a break from family, the opportunity to kind of create and have that sense of release, that sense of accomplishment, and a little stress reliever in her life. After going through that and navigating, I came up with a hobby open house or fair that could be either digital or in person. And that way she could ask questions and touch and feel and see like what the time commitment or equipment commitment and that sort of thing would work for her, and ultimately select a hobby that way.
Awesome. I love that idea. That's why I wanted you to share. Thank you. That's so cool. All right. How about who do we have next? Remy? Anyone from Remy's room want to share?
Yeah, who among do one of you want to share a recap for everybody? I think we gravitated to Hannah's idea.
Oh, I know Hannah. Hannah, I'm gonna.
So maybe Hannah, you.
Hannah.
Well, I'll say so. At least a few of us rallied around or had the same problem space of Remy wanting to support a cause through their cafe, and so thinking about how Remy would be able to use the cafe space as
nice.
you know, as a platform. Peyton had some dope ideas about like using the layout of the space to support the voices of people who might struggle to have their voices heard in other spaces, as well as like local art. And then I had the idea that they could have an activist in residence at the cafe.
Nice.
Who might rotate, who would be supporting a cause, and then who could interact with the other patrons, and who patrons could interact with to learn more about a cause.
So Hannah, are we going to open up a coffee shop, an activist coffee shop?
I shared with my group, and I think I told you, my dream is to open a PB&J cafe. So.
There we go. Beautiful.
It's in the works. It's in the works.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. And then finally, how about Kamal? Who are our Kamal folks out there?
We're here. And I had such an impressive array of ideas.
Ooh.
And so, Remy or Kamal is 11, and maybe let's have Charmaine share if she's willing.
Yeah. So what I was hoping to do was to make Kamal feel a little bit less lonely. And considering that Kamal is 11, I know that connecting with other people your age and having friendships is a very important part of growing up. And especially with the pandemic and not being able to be in school in person, it's been much harder for kids to do that. Whereas for people who are older, we have social media, we have phones, we have Zoom. For kids, it might not be as accessible to do that. So I was thinking of kind of having a pen pal kit and kind of service in a way where you can kind of make a profile, say your interests, and then you'll get matched up with a specific person. And you would get a kit that has like personalized stationery, it has envelopes, it has instructions on how to write a letter, how to send it out, because that's a skill that not a lot of people know, especially kids right now. And I would also have like a bio of your pen pals information, their interests, and also stickers, pens,
Fun.
other
Love
things
that.
to spice up your pen pal experience.
Charmaine, you should do a pop-up at the festival and do a letter writing pop-up.
I had a group full of participants. We had Rosie thinking of ways to bring the family back together and facilitate those gatherings. We had Megan creating ways for kids to teach kids. It was a great group.
Yeah, Soraya would be so proud of all of us because we didn't focus on the digital. We really thought about these really interactive experiences. And Charmaine, you even said a service, which is awesome, right? Like designing services and physical experiences, I think is really such an awesome thing to hold on to, especially as we're all hoping to get to get back to a place where we can have those physical experiences and connections. So thank you all so very much. Really appreciate all of the time and effort and just for hanging out with us on a Saturday morning. So hopefully you all enjoyed this. We would love if you could take photos or photos or videos or whatever you want of your designs that you came up with today. So that could be your storyboards, your design frame, your actual sketches. If you could share those, we would absolutely love it. I believe you can tag us at DIP Seattle or at Seattle Design Festival. And also, I believe our hashtag, someone throw our hashtag out there.
It's just hashtag Seattle Design Festival.
Hashtag Seattle Design Festival.
And guys, if you're interested in participating, if you're not a participant and would like to be, here is the link to our CFP on April 30th. We're all going to gather for a beverage of your choice, either digitally or physically. Get to know your community. May 7th, proposals are due. And then the festival is August 21st and 22nd. As a reminder, this year we have the built installation or full weekend participation, or you can do a pop-up event, which is a shorter, less time committed opportunity.
Yeah. And really this year we are focusing on our process. So you got a sneak peek into ways, methods and ways that you can actually show your process. So really think of that if you're keeping that in mind as you're if you want to build something or do pop-ups this year, is really being able to kind of walk through that process and show it.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Hi,
you.
everyone.
So nice to meet you all.
Yeah,
Thank you
this
so
was
much for
awesome.
joining.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
Really
all.
appreciate it. Love those ideas. Go design them.
Everything.
Go design them.